Hey guys, welcome back. Um, as you can see by the title, I wanted to talk about flying while fat. Yes, it can be done. Sometimes it's not always fun. But I actually, when I went away for Christmas, I went to New York. Of course, I flew because I used to drive all the time, and this time I was like, we're not driving, we're gonna fly. So this is the thing. So I flew there and back. I did one ways where there was no layover. It was just strictly there and back. Took about an hour, 45 minutes, almost 2 hours to get there, as well as coming back. And I found that when you do the one ways instead of layovers, the planes are really small. So these are like little jetliners. So it's literally, you have the one seat on one side and then you have the two seats on one side. But it's so small on the inside. First of all, you walk in with like your head down. So you have to walk with your head down. You're trying to squeeze in. You're trying to put stuff in the overhead while you can. You're trying to do all that. It's just a hot mess, okay? It's just a hot mess. And on top of that, with it being the reason, well, not the reason, but with the plane being so small, the seats have to be tiny. And so for me, being a big girl who flies, when I do fly, I typically like to get the seats where it's just the one seat in the room versus the two or three. Or if I do fly, I like to get, if I can't get just the one row seat, I like to get an aisle seat so I can have room to like put my leg out. But I don't like to impose on other people if I have to sit next to somebody, because we all know planes, even if it's not like the little jet planes, plane seats are just smaller in general. So I don't like to be spilling over to somebody if I'm sitting next to them and making them uncomfortable. All of that is at the size that I am currently. I'm a little, I don't want to say embarrassed to fly, but I would say uncomfortable. Not embarrassed, because I'm gonna fly regardless, but flying is a little uncomfortable being the size that I am, because it's a few things. So one, as far as the seat goes, so, and I don't know why I did this on my way there. So when I went to New York, the plane was not full. Like, the plane wasn't full. There was a lot of seats up front nobody had selected or anything like that. So when I went to sit in the seat, I could barely do that, okay? And for some reason, I couldn't put the armrest up. Like, I don't know. I couldn't put the armrest up, which is weird because it had the button for you to do it, but it wouldn't do it. So I'm like, maybe I can't do it. So before I knew that the plane wasn't full, I'm like, okay, I have to be in my seat. This is the seat I chose. I can't just change my seat, especially if that is somebody else. I can't take somebody else's seat. So I squeeze in there and I'm like, woo, this is about, woo, Lord, let me go to sleep so this don't, okay, because I didn't even want to think about being in that tiny seat. So I squeeze into the seat. I already knew I was going to need a seatbelt extension because I've needed one for a while now. So that was no surprise at all. So once the flight attendant, they count in the passengers, I'm like, ma'am, I need a seatbelt extension. She like, okay, got you, hold on. She goes and bring me one. That doesn't bother me, but I'm very conscious of that too. Like, I'm self-conscious. I'm a little insecure about that too. So I make sure, like with my coat is covering the seatbelt extension. My shirt was like, it was like a huge sweater, so that kind of covered it up too. So I felt a little good about that, and I went to sleep. But when I tell you, the seat was so uncomfortable, and it wasn't until takeoff that I realized that the plane wasn't full, because a guy who was way bigger than me was on the flight too. And so he came from the back and sat up front in the empty seats where it was the two seats, and it was a lot of seats that was empty, and he was going off like, I don't know why they thought I could fit back there anyway. But my thing is, but you purchased that one seat, and he was really big. So for me, if I'm that big, and I know people don't want to buy 2 plane tickets, but at the size that he was, I would buy 2 plane tickets. I would just make sure that I'm buying my tickets in advance enough to where they're not crazy expensive to get 2 seats together, because it was no way he was fitting in that one seat. I was my thighs was on, like, okay, I wasn't no. Okay, so I don't know how he thought he was gonna be able to fit, and I knew it was hella tight for me. But for some reason, going there, I didn't move to empty seats that had 2. Like, I was just, and I think that was another thing about my insecurity. Like, I didn't want to be like, oh, she needs 2 seats. And you know what I'm saying? So I was like, I'm just going to make this work. I'm going to be squished. I'm just going to do this. Yeah. By the time my flight was over, and I went to sleep. So, you know, you don't really think about it. But when it was time to wake up and I got out that seat, the outside of my thighs was like praising. Okay, hallelujah, all amens all day, so ready to be done. So I get to my mom's house, and the side of my legs, I'm like, I'm gonna have a bruise. I bruise easy, gonna have a bruise. And sure enough, I had a bruise. Like, it was hard in those spots, and they started to bruise. So I'm like, I knew that was going to be coming, because I just chose to stay my butt in a too small seat, like, just because I felt uncomfortable being around people, and I didn't want to get any type of look, stares, whatever. And then I wasn't worried about no comments, because the sister clapbacks is A1, okay? So on the way coming back, I was like, boom. Okay, so flight going there wasn't packed. The flight coming back, I'm hoping that's not packed, because if it's some open seats, a sister's gonna slide up in them seats, okay? I'm going to shimmy on over and be good in 2 seats versus the 1 seat that I've been, because it's the same type of plane. And I literally think it's the same plane that goes back and forth, because that's literally how it was flying out and coming back. It's just going, coming back, going, coming back. This plane was packed. Okay, to capacity. It was no switching seats. It was no, I knew when I was in the area, the gate where it was, because the people was there. I didn't even think, I thought we was flying on a bigger plane, as much people was in the gate, was at the gate with me, because I'm like, all these people can't fit. If it's the same type plane, all these people not fitting on this. Oh no. But it is. I mean, it was, but we literally was completely packed to capacity. Every seat was taken. There was no switching seats. There wasn't anything. So one thing I did do that was different this time going versus coming was, soon as I was getting on and the flight attendant was greeting, I asked them immediately, excuse me, do you have a seatbelt extension? It was like, oh, okay, she just slid it, you know, discreetly or whatever. So that part made me feel good, because I didn't have to ask, and they didn't have to bring it back or anything. I asked soon as I got on, soon as we were right there. So she just slid it to me, and people not paying attention because they're getting on a plane, they're putting their bags in the overhead, they're getting in their seats, getting their kids together, whatever. So that was one thing about that I felt a little better about. I still had, like, you know, my jacket, cover it up, whatever. When I tell y'all, that's, I don't understand how even the smaller people was comfortable in those seats, because unless you weigh 120 pounds, if you weigh a good 160, 170, you was getting in those seats just about, okay? The seats was just hella tight, like, and mad teeny. Like, there's no reason why that plane should be that damn small. Like, it's just no reason why. So this was another rude awakening, like, yo, you got to get it together, because you almost couldn't fit in this seat. And I'm not trying to buy no 2 plane tickets, okay? Like, it's legit been a minute since I've flown. I think it's been 2 years. Yeah. So it's been like 2 years since I've flown. And when I flew the last time, the seats were not tight. I did need a seatbelt extension, but the seats were comfortable. But it was also big planes, because I was like going to Vegas and stuff like that. So it was big planes. It wasn't on no tiny jet or anything. So it was like whatever. So tricks of the trade going forward. Some things you can do automatically and some things you won't be able to. So first, if you do need a seatbelt extension, ask as soon as you're getting on a plane. That way they can kind of give it to you as soon as you're getting on, so they don't have to go come back and hand it to you in front of everybody, all that stuff, if you feel self-conscious about that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do going forward. You can do that too if you have that problem. Or you could purchase a seatbelt extension. I think they have them on Amazon and any eBay and wherever else you want to go to. I hear that they're pretty cheap. I don't know if I want to buy one because it's just trying to get snatched, okay? So I don't want to be doing all that if I'm trying to get it on down, bringing it together, okay? So I would ask for a seatbelt extension as soon as you get on a plane to avoid any type of insecurities, you know, feeling some type of way about people seeing that. Also, if you do have the option to switch seats, definitely do so. Don't be like me. Don't squeeze your big ass in no tiny ass seat when it's other seats available. You need more room. I got a lot of wagon I'm dragging. It is what it is. And so going forward, if I do have the option to move to like a 2-row type seat or 3 or whatever, versus the tiny one, if it's uncomfortable, then I need to move. Point blank, period. So those are 2 things. Don't allow what you think people think about you to have you like me squeezed in a tiny ass plane seat when you could have moved to more comfortable seats because you didn't want people to look at you funny. Okay, I got a lot of ass. I need a lot of seat. Point blank, period. So that's what I would do going forward. If your plane is full, that seat you chose, ain't no way around that. You just got to be squished in there. Going back, I got the bruises again. I got the bruises in the same spot because it was the same type plane. It was like a little bit above it. I guess these armrests were a little different. But I got bruises on my legs again. So I have 2 bruises on the outside of each thigh because I was in a tiny plane seat and a sister couldn't move, okay? I couldn't even like, wasn't even gonna work. But I say all this to say this. Do not feel some type of way because you are a bigger person flying. Don't allow what people think of you to make you insecure anyway about flying as well. If people got a problem, so what? They can kiss your big ass, okay? And if people say anything, you need to have your clapbacks on 100. Because it wasn't nobody getting ready to say nothing to me and I ain't say nothing back. But nobody said nothing. And people are pretty respectful, at least. I've never had anybody disrespect me about my weight. I think because they know I go 0 to 100 real quick. I'm not really one who's like, nah, boo, I can get it with the best of them. So, yeah, accept it. If you bigger and you flying, be prepared and know what you need to do. Ask for a seatbelt extension as soon as you get on. That way you don't have to feel any type of way with somebody bringing something to you if possible. If you have the option, if your plane is not full and there's empty seats and they look more comfortable, move to those empty seats. Typically, the airlines don't care because there's nobody in those seats, so that shouldn't be a problem. So, yeah, if anybody got any other suggestions about flying while fat, do that. And so you don't have to be running and out of breath, get there early. You think I'm about to be running to my next flight? No. No, ma'am. But that is all I wanted to talk about while flying while fat. My experience flying this winter for Christmas. You can share your flying while fat stories, or if you have any other suggestions people can do, bigger people who feel insecure and things about flying, let us know. Drop it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Talk to you later. Peace out.